Our final category of technology tools is related to your small business's finances. How is this technology going to help you run your business? Mainly, it's going to move you from operating by intuition or by the seat of your pants, if you will, to making business decisions based on data. These tools will let you do a much better job of monitoring your health, to identify where there's some inefficiencies or waste. If you have these kind of tools in place, then you're much more likely and in a position to quickly allow your business to grow. They also actually allow you to speed up both your invoicing to get some income and your collections. Our main message, though, is that each business is unique, and so we're going to be covering a variety of tools, but there is no reason or no need for you to try to do everything at once or on the first day. And so we'll be walking you through the kind of decisions that you can make regarding which one of these tools, depending on the character of your business, makes the most sense to be adopted. You're also going to need a little bit to think about how, as you choose a set of tools, to make sure that you have ways to be able to transfer data among the various applications. And you'll also have to make some decisions about, are you going to operate them locally or on a network or even so-called cloud-based systems, and are you comfortable with so-called open source or free systems, or are you willing and able to buy the so-called licensed commercial versions? So let's first talk about technology tools that are going to help you get paid. First, we want to make the point that you can conduct e-commerce, that is, selling on the internet, without a website or without your own ability to collect credit cards, etc. The way you do that is you use major services, the notable one of which is obviously eBay. Literally thousands of small businesses every day are effectively selling both new and used products on eBay. They've got a variety of tools that make it easy and effective. A corresponding site, if you're in the arts and craftsy kind of business, is Etsy. So if that's your type of product, you want to be selling on Etsy. And then Amazon is the third part of class. You can either have them represent you, or you can just be a so-called Amazon associate that put links on, say, your website, that if a customer clicks on that link and goes and buys something from Amazon, they'll pay you 4 to 6% of the selling price. And that's actually fairly cheap money. There's a lot of businesses would be very happy if they had a 4 to 6% net profit every year. And so in effect, it's like free money. Whether using those sites or your own location or wherever, PayPal is clearly the dominant means for getting payments for very small businesses. That's because you can literally send and receive money from anybody that's got an email address. The customers pay by either cash or they can pay by credit card. You don't have to worry about that. You're not involved at all. Their fees are competitive, although a bit more. I mean, typically a quarter to a half percentage point more than some others, but without any type of qualification on your part. And it has the further benefit that the customer data is only visible to PayPal, so you don't have to worry about being the target CEO and explaining how you had some hacker steal all your customers' information. Further, they provide a variety of services that are very helpful to small businesses. They can create invoices, they can create shipping labels, they even have so-called shopping cart features that we're going to be discussing in more detail in a minute, but it lets customers do things like consolidate multiple items into a single purchase. They can specify things like color and size and how they want it shipped, and so on. And all you have to do is just cut and paste some code off of the PayPal website onto your website, and you have those features built in effect for free. Just for the record, shopping cart software per se typically adds $10 to $30 a month in additional charges from the big boy websites. So it's trivial to set up. You don't have to worry about data protection. And you can even create product sales on your website very inexpensively. Now, obviously, there's nothing free, but they're the clear market leader. Now, once you get beyond trying to sell a couple of handfuls of items. Doing cut and pasting from PayPal is really gets to be somewhat of a pain. So what you really need is what is called shopping cart software. And what happens is, again, this is the software that lets you consolidate items into a single payment. They can save purchases and come back. They can remove a single product and don't have to delete the whole order, and so on. More notably, for the business owner and operator, all you have to do is concentrate on the product details. That is, you do things like write a short description, write a long description, write a product title, insert a picture, and then the software actually creates the website's look and feel automatic. You just deal with the product details, and the software builds the website in effect. Good looking, well organized for you. These software also tends to let you track what all your customers have bought historically, so you can actually use that to even market to them in the future. Free providers, remember that do-it-yourself software I told you called Weebly and Wix, if they were using PayPal. Actually, a couple of months ago, Weebly incorporated some full-blown shopping cart features into their product as well. Going beyond that, there is an open source product called OpenCart that is as fully featured as any you'll ever see. So the software itself is free, and if you've got a technology background, you can install it yourself, no charges for the software. If you don't have the technology background, they have consultants on their website you can pay to install it for you, and at least you avoid the recurring costs associated with the software from the market leaders, who are the usual players: GoDaddy, Yahoo Small Business, Homestead. It's a company that's owned by Intuit, the TurboTax and Quick and QuickBooks people. And there's a very popular site also. It's a cloud-based system called Shopify that a lot of people like. Now, if you want the lowest cost per transaction charged for accepting credit cards, that's going to lead you to a thing called merchant accounts. These are the services that process credit and debit cards and deposit cash into your bank account. And while you can start by talking to your current bank, you really should check competitors, because this is an extremely competitive market. Typically, it's going to cost you about $1,000 for every station to buy a card reader and a receipt printer. Many of these services have a minimum monthly fee. Notably, though, they require both good personal and good business credit. And we realize that that can be a problem for many of our SCORE small business clients. But if you qualify, it is invariably the lowest cost per transaction. Now, there's obviously nothing free in this market, even though it is competitive. The market leader is an outfit called WorldPay. First Data is also popular. And Intuit is popular, particularly if you happen to use their QuickBooks product for bookkeeping. And if you're selling on the internet, you're invariably going to run into an outfit called Authorize.net. To show one of the clear benefits of technology to small businesses, and that was the creation or introduction of the little credit card readers that plug into the headphone jack of a smartphone or a tablet. That lets you avoid the $1,000 or so for each station of the hardware that you had to buy with the mainstream merchant account providers. The receipts go automatically to the customer's phone. The credit card transaction immediately goes to the merchant services. Notably, for the benefit of the small business owner, no credit check is required. So it means the smallest business, mobile businesses, flea markets and the like, everybody can accept credit cards. Now, the provider that you probably have heard of is an outfit called Square, because their reader is a Square. But there are other providers as well, notably Intuit, who again are the Quick and QuickBooks TurboTax people. Theirs happens to be a Cylinder, and PayPal also has a similar product. Theirs happens to be a Triangle. They all behave similarly, although their software does have different features. So there is a difference, and you can use them all, or you can just pick the one that you think has the best feature set. What I'd also advise you to check back every few months to see how they change, but they're all going to evolve. and they're all going to be comparable in both charges and features. So good deal for small businesses. If you have a brick and mortar business location, you probably also should consider a point of sale system in lieu of just a simple cash register. Cash register is going to tell you that you had $1,237 in revenue today. But a point of sale system lets you know exactly what products were sold, when, by whom, for what price, compared to what cost. And that insight into the details of your business makes it much easier for you to do things like track employee productivity. They can let you automatically reduce inventory. They can automatically project reorder needs, and just in general let you start running your business based on facts rather than folklore. Now, the downside, it is going to cost you about $1,000 per station more, but the visibility and the management control is clearly worth it. There are actually free providers of this type of software, one called Regit Express, and the market leaders is one called QuickBooks Point of Sale, and another called Retail Pro is well known. Okay, we've been talking about getting paid, so now let's talk about keeping track of both payments and expenses with what people would classically call bookkeeping. Let's start by getting organized for the tax man. You probably know that the IRS only cares about 21 categories as expenses. Here's the list. Plus there's 2 or 3 income categories and depreciation categories. But that's all they care about. So our first technology recommendation is buy yourself a Pendaflex folder. Just stick all your receipts into one of those categories. And as far as the IRS is concerned, it doesn't really matter how frequently you do it because they just really want the year in the results. However, it's probably in your self-interest that you consider a little bit more granular detail and time phasing for improved visibility in your business. As an example, I mentioned we're from Florida. We have a phenomenon down here we call snowbirds, and that is our population almost doubles from December to like April, so that small businesses around here may have relatively fixed expenses throughout the year, but their income varies substantially. And if you're going to really manage your business effectively, you need to understand that time phasing. Particularly if you want to track more granular detail than just the 21 categories, like if you'd like to know what do you spend on the different types of utilities, then you're going to probably move to some simple software. Notably, the dominant player is something called Quicken Home and Business. Quicken Home and Business is very fully featured. It adds things like invoicing and customer tracking and the like that is not normally associated with the Quicken product for individuals. But it'll sure run 95% or more of the small businesses with which I'm familiar. The problem with it is that it's a so-called single entry system that bookkeepers do not like. On the other hand, normal humans do tend to like it because it's much more easy for them to understand and follow. Although I must provide, in the way of full disclosure, confess that I'm actually an official Quicken beta tester and have been a user of the product for 30 years, so I'm probably not unbiased. General ledger software is what most people would call bookkeeping. It's the tool that tracks all the cash interactions, ins and outs, if you will, of your business. And so it allows you to do things like budgeting and manage your cash flow and look at your balance sheet and provide income statements and so on. And depending on what your perspective is, for example, bankers tend to worry about cash flow, owners worry about profitability. If you're a manager in a business, you're probably more concerned about getting better visibility so you can control your overhead expenses and so on. Almost any business needs general ledger in one form or another. There are free providers. Nolo Pro's one. There's another product called Turbo Cash, and there's another one called BSI General Ledger. But the clear market leader is a product called QuickBooks, and another one that's a distant second is sold by a company called Sage. So-called APAR systems, or accounts payable and receivable systems software, is basically the credit equivalent of what General Ledger is doing for cash. So it's tracking who you owe and who owes you, and then provides the tools that let you do such things as invoicing, but it also gives you some insight into what customer data is, their orders, their demographics, and so on. Notably, remember earlier, one of the myths we were trying to dispel was a so-called, this kind of technology won't help me get paid. And we mentioned at the time that aging reports are a very effective tool, because I'll guarantee you on one page, letting that 90-10 rule work for you, you can know exactly who owes you the most or who's owed you the longest, and 10% of the payees are going to contribute to 90% of what you're missing. Another common thing you worry about is that you need to manage your cash, and on the other hand, you want to be able to make sure you can get your discounts typically if you pay within 30 days. So this kind of software lets you set alarms and triggers to say, okay, it's the 29th day, pay this bill. Free providers, a product called Turbo Cash, and that Nolo Pro product we were talking about earlier also does accounts payable and receivable. But again, QuickBooks is the clear leader with Sage a distant second. Once your business starts to grow beyond you and your spouse, then the good news is you got employees. The bad news is you got to worry about payroll. Now, payroll systems typically track the hours the employees are working and idle and on vacation and the like. And if you're, depending on the kind of business you're in, you may also be needing to track about, how many hours you spend on either production of a particular product or on a particular client's activities or building a particular project. Plus, you're going to need to track things that are related to the so-called indirect or overhead benefit costs. And while most people would think you buy a payroll system so that you can precisely pay the employees, in truth, the reason most people buy payroll systems is because of the government. Because there are just so many different taxes in one form or another and annual reporting requirements that it's just a heartache to try to keep track, and that's why people buy payroll systems. So the data does obviously meet your obligations to paying the government, but it also provides information that helps on annual earnings reports for its tax man and so on, and insurance carrier requirements and the like. TimeTrex has a free version that, although like many of these so-called quote free products, they are typically either limited in functionality, or in this case, they're limited in the kind of support that is provided. If you want something other than support on a forum where you're in effect supported mostly by other TimeTrex users, then they also have some paid offerings as well. But it's a good little usable, effective product. Although clearly the market leader is an outfit called ADP. Paychex is of course sponsor and is a good provider. And again, if you happen to use their QuickBooks product, then Intuit has a nice payroll product that integrates well with QuickBooks, as you would expect. So finally, let's talk about some technology tools that can help, even though they're financial tools, but they can help you in some more operational aspects of your business. As your business grows, or depending on the nature of your business, you may very well be dealing with a lot of inventory, whether it's for products or for material or work in process as you're making products. But this is another area for that 90-10 rule. A lot of people avoid inventory systems because they say, hey, I can't afford to track every nut and bolt. Well, the point is you don't need to, and you shouldn't bother. Again, you want to focus on high dollar value items, long lead time items, and items that are key to delivery of your most important products. One of the things these tools particularly also allow you doing a good job of is keeping track of what they cost versus what you're selling things for. And depending on if it's a continuing like product, then you need to worry about monitoring the number of so-called turns. That is, how much inventory do you have to keep in stock in order to be able to continually produce your products and sales. They also help you regarding doing inventory, but mainly the ability to manage the asset value to make sure you don't have too much money tied up in inventory by assuring that you only are buying what's called the economic order quantity for each of these high value items in your inventory. Inflow is a provider that has a free product. Again, typically if you want a few more bells and whistles or more users or mostly more direct support, they obviously have a nice paid product as well. Inventory Manager and Point of Sale Mate are a couple of other free products for inventory systems. Now we want to talk about some systems that let you monitor your operations in detail so that you can effectively price your services. So-called time and billing systems are key to people that charge on a so-called time and material basis. People like software programmers or electricians or plumbers commonly bill this way. But what it means is they got to be able to track in detail every hour that they spent to each specific customer. They typically also need to track it by employee so that they can compare over time their true costs are to their individual prices. Now in this case, these kind of businesses get paid based on their effort in effect, and so having tools that allow them to find their ability to price these things over time is going to improve their ability to profitably price. And notably also though, these tools invariably allow them to tailor your estimate and invoice formats for the needs of specific clients. Some free ones: Toggl, TimeTrex, Make Some Time. Some market leader is clearly Kronos, although Replicon and BillCrick have good reputations. Job cost systems are also used to monitor in detail your internal operations as the key to helping you be successful in pricing fixed price jobs. Now fixed price jobs are different, as the name implies, because you no longer get paid on the basis of how much effort you expend, but rather on the progress that you make in achieving results in the job. For example, it's not a matter of how many hours you spent or how much concrete was involved, but you simply get paid so much when you get the foundation laid, and you get paid so much when you get the studs up in the wall, and you get paid so much when the drywall gets mounted. That's the good news, because your costs are not related to what you get paid. You can make a lot of money. The downside is, unless you have a very good detailed database of tracking what your costs are for this type of job over time, you can lose your rear. So what these systems do is they give you some historical data that let you require to do a much better job of estimating, and they also then let you track individual jobs to what your estimate was so that you can see where you actually stand on any of the current jobs. There are free providers. Job cost tracking is one, but the dominant market leader is clearly one called Estimation, although QuickBooks for Contractors is also popular. Now we have a little confession to make. We've just gone through a lot of financial functions, both on the income and on the expense side, tools that can help various aspects of a small business from a financial standpoint. But that's not what most people do. What most people really do is they buy integrated software, and the dominant player is one called QuickBooks. Like most jack of all trades, it can very well be the master of none, and as such, many of these specialized tools that we've talked about so far can do a somewhat better job than QuickBooks will be due in any one of their areas. But frankly, our experience is that few small businesses actually make use of many of the features that are in QuickBooks, much less most of its features. So it would be very rare that it's much of a loss because it's a jack of all trades. Now, in addition, the main advantage that integrated software has is you don't have to worry about data reentry from one function to the next because it's integrated. Now, besides QuickBooks, there are other integrated offerings. Sage 50 is a package that used to be called Peachtree, and Sage also still sells the venerable DAC Easy package. And the Nolo Pro that we talked about earlier has most of the functions that we've been talking about. In addition, there's a whole host of new players, many of which are cloud-based. Notably, you're going to find that they are much more attractive than things like QuickBooks and Sage 50. To be honest, these market-leading products look like they're just at best a son or a grandson of a kind of ugly Lotus 1-2-3 that many of you may not even know that name, but it was the original spreadsheet that became popular on PCs back in the 80s. These new products, on the other hand, look like an application on an iPad. They're attractive, they've got pretty fonts, they've got built-in graphics and so on, and so you may find yourself much more comfortable with them than the market leaders. But in truth, QuickBooks is still the dominant player. These new products also have the advantage that they're cloud-based. That's sort of a two-edged sword in that because they're cloud-based, some people fear that, well, you know, I'm worried about if my business data is out there in the cloud, then somebody might steal it. Well, yeah, that's possible, but these services have very extensive tools in place and do a good job of protecting against that type of problem. Notably, the advantage they have is that because they're cloud-based, they're actually probably being backed up so that when the next tornado or hurricane comes through town, your business can probably still be operating the next day because you've still got all the data that you needed to continue your activities. So to summarize the discussions regarding financial technology, we discussed a variety of functions that could be performed by differing tools. General ledger, accounts payable and receivable, payroll, inventory, time and billing, job costs, and on the revenue side, things like merchant accounts and credit card collections and shopping cart software. And then, depending on the different type of business, are you a startup? Do you have lots of suppliers? Do you deal with dozens of items? Are you a job shopper? Do you do e-commerce? Then you can pick and choose the functions you want to perform. Well, I guess probably every business needs general ledger, but otherwise you should be able to pick and choose and should pick and choose. There's no reason to do everything on the first day. In addition, we then, for each of these functions, we suggested that there are 3 specialized versions. There are commercial market leaders for each of them. And then, in fact, there are integrated packages that, in effect, are jack of all trades, albeit maybe in some degree a master of none. But whether it's an integrated package or a specialized package, the message still remains. Pick and choose. Tailor what you do depending on what the needs of your business right now are most critical and important to your success. In closing, we want to thank you for taking this training with us today. We hope you found it helpful. And now you could also be some help to us by filling out a post-training survey similar to the one you took originally, except the last question on it has a free text field where we ask for any of your suggestions or feedback regarding how we could make this training more effective. Please give us all your thoughts as you can. And again, thank you.